Imagine gathering, I don't know, thousands of people together. And these people, they don't have wheels, they don't have metal tools, they don't even have a written language.
Right, just totally basic Stone Age technology.
Exactly. But somehow you convince them to carve these 20-ton pillars of solid rock. You spend decades hauling these massive stones, and you arrange them into this breathtaking monumental circle.
Which is an insane logistical nightmare on its own.
Oh, totally. But then the moment it is finally finished, you gather everyone together just so you can bury the entire thing under thousands of tons of dirt.
Yeah, it sounds completely absurd.
It really does. So, welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are looking at the sheer mind bending absurdity of a place that takes the neat, orderly staircase of human history and just completely shatters it.
It really is a total systemic collapse of the old textbook timeline,
Yeah.
Because for decades, the model was super rigid.
Right, the whole hunter gatherer story.
Yeah, exactly. The idea was that hunter gatherers stumble upon agriculture, which allows them to finally settle down. Settling down creates a surplus of food, which gives them free time, and that leads to the invention of religion. And then finally, you get monumental architecture.
Bread first, then temples.
Exactly. But what we are unpacking today is an epistemological breaking point.
Right. And just to ground that phrase for everyone listening, when we say epistemological breaking point, we aren't just saying like a date was a few hundred years off.
No, not at all.
We're saying the entire foundation of how we understand human progress, the very lens through which we view civilization, was broken by this one single discovery.
Yeah. The order of operations that we just assumed was a universal law of human nature, it turned out to be completely backwards.
And the ground zero for this shattered timeline is Gobeklitepe. It's this Neolithic site near Şanlıurfa in modern-day Turkey. It's sitting right where the Euphrates and Tigris River basins intersect.
Literally the absolute cradle of the early Neolithic era.
Yeah. But what is so wild about this place is that modern archaeology almost entirely missed it.
Which is kind of funny to think about now.
It is. Back in 1963, a joint team from Semble University and the University of Chicago were doing surface surveys, and they walked right over this exact hill.
Right over it.
They saw some broken limestone slabs sticking out of the dirt, jotted down that it was, probably just an abandoned medieval cemetery, and moved right on.
Which, to be fair, is completely understandable if you think about the mechanics of an archaeological survey back then.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, they're looking for pottery shards, right? The classic hallmarks of a settled civilization. They see rough-hewn limestone, and their brains immediately categorize it as a recent grave marker.
Because the alternative is just too crazy.
Exactly. The alternative that prehistoric hunter-gatherers carved massive megaliths was theoretically impossible to them.
It's that classic case of not seeing what you aren't prepared to believe. So it wasn't until 1994 that archaeologist Klaus Schmidt reevaluated that exact same hill.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
What did Schmidt see in the dirt that the previous team completely missed?
Well, what's fascinating here is that Schmidt wasn't just looking at the physical dirt. He was looking at the sheer scale of the anomaly.
Okay.
He noticed that the hill wasn't a natural formation at all. It was an artificial mound created by centuries of human occupation and, crucially, deliberate piling.
Wow.
Yeah. And he also noticed massive amounts of flint flakes littering the ground, which is the byproduct of stone tool carving.
Right. So someone was doing a lot of work up there.
Tons of work. When he saw the size of the mound combined with all that flint, he realized this wasn't a medieval graveyard. He actually stated, and this is a quote, "When I first saw the size of this place, either it was a special place or I was completely wrong."
Wow. So he knew right away, instantly. He knew he was standing on something that was going to force us to rethink the exact moment humans stopped just, surviving in nature and started actively trying to explain it.
So to really grasp why this place breaks all the rules, we have to look at what they actually built.
Yeah.
And more importantly, the bizarre thing they did when it was finished.
The architecture is just mind-blowing.
It really is.
Yeah.
Let's start there. If you were to stand at the bottom of one of these excavated enclosures, say 11,000 years ago, you wouldn't be looking at a ruin. You'd be looking up at towering, 18-foot tall, T-shaped stone giants looming over you.
Yeah, massive T-shapes.
Now, my immediate instinct when I see a flat-topped pillar is to think structurally, right? Like, oh, that's a column designed to hold up a heavy roof.
Right, but the researchers working on this site completely reject that idea.
Really? So no roof?
But probably not. Looking at them purely as load-bearing architecture is a modern projection. We really have to look at this through the anthropology of stone.
Okay, tell me about that.
So these weren't just structural supports. They were highly stylized, abstract representations of human beings. Klaus Schmidt argued this explicitly. He said the pillars are humans themselves, but a representation of identity, not just the physical body.
Oh, wait, so they're people.
Yeah. Some of these T shapes even have like arms, hands, and belts carved right into the sides of the stone. It subtly implies this humanoid form.
I want to stop on that for a second because it's super fascinating. It's not a literal carving, then. It's not a statue of a specific chieftain or a highly detailed face.
No, it's an abstract avatar. It's an ontological expression.
Ontological meaning.
Meaning it represents the concept of being, like the essence of an ancestor or a spirit. Think of it like a conceptual placeholder for humanity itself.
Oh, wow. That entirely shifts how we categorize the whole site.
Exactly. They weren't building a giant house to keep the rain off their heads. They were carving a physical manifestation of their identity into the bedrock.
Using thousands of hours of intense backbreaking labor, carving 20-ton limestone blocks using nothing but smaller, harder rocks.
Yeah, all to create a philosophical statement.
And as if convincing your tribe to chip away at limestone for 20 years to build a philosophical statement isn't enough, here's where it gets really interesting. We have to talk about the stratigraphy.
Ah, yes, the dirt layers.
Yeah, the actual layering of the earth inside these enclosures. Because the sheer volume of what they found blew my mind. From the sources, we are talking about intentional backfilling.
Ritual termination of the site. Yeah.
Right, I'm stuck on that phrase. The ritual termination, the idea of completing a building by burying it. Because if I build a house, it's completed so I can live in it.
Right. That's how we think today.
Are you saying the act of burying this massive structure was the entire point of it?
It totally forces us to rewire how we think about purpose.
Yeah.
To the modern mind, we build things to be seen, right? To be used until they fall into ruin. But the archaeological data here shows that these enclosures were meticulously filled in. And they didn't just shovel loose topsoil over the edge either.
They didn't.
No, they engineered the burial. They carried thousands of tons of limestone rubble, flint tools, and animal bones, bucket by bucket, basket by basket, to completely entomb these pillars.
That is just staggering.
Klaus Schmidt interpreted this perfectly. He said these structures were not abandoned, they were intentionally buried. This shows that their function had not ended, but was completed.
So it wasn't a building they just left because the hunting dried up or something.
Right.
The life cycle of the monument actually demanded its burial.
Precisely. It was a conscious closure. The labor of hiding it was just as sacred as the labor of carving it.
Which naturally brings up the obvious question, what exactly were they closing away in the dark? Because these abstract stone avatars aren't blank, are they?
No, they're heavily decorated.
Right. They are covered in these incredibly intricate, high-relief carvings of animals. Spiders, scorpions, boars, foxes.
Yeah, quite a menagerie.
Now, if I'm falling into a modern trap, I might look at that and say, okay, prehistoric field guide, they carved the animals they saw when they went out hunting.
That's the old assumption, definitely. That early humans only painted what was on the dinner menu or what they were afraid of in the dark.
Right.
But the faunal remains, the actual animal bones they found in the dirt at the site, they don't perfectly match the carvings at all.
Really? What were they eating then?
They were eating huge amounts of gazelle. But gazelles aren't the primary focus of the art. Instead, you see this deep focus on predatory or venomous animals.
It's not the food.
Exactly. Which indicates these figures are not merely decorative or dietary. They're tied directly to complex cosmological narratives and death rituals.
The vulture is the perfect example of this, right? Because you certainly aren't hunting vultures for a barbecue.
No, you definitely aren't. The presence of the vulture is actually a critical mechanism for understanding their worldview.
Oh, so?
Well, in the context of the early Neolithic, vultures are powerfully linked to the concept of excarnation.
Excarnation being the practice of leaving the deceased exposed to the elements.
Specifically, leaving the body exposed for birds of prey to consume the flesh.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It sounds grim to us today, but structurally, it's a deeply spiritual mechanism. The belief is that by stripping away the physical form, the vulture frees the soul, allowing it to ascend to the heavens.
Oh, I see. So when you see a vulture carved onto one of those abstract stone avatars, it isn't just wildlife photography.
Not at all. It is a profound statement about the mechanics of the afterlife.
So the stones themselves are basically a narrative. Archaeologist Ian Hodder makes an incredible point about this. He states that in Neolithic societies, symbols don't just represent the world, they construct it.
Yes. If we connect this to the bigger picture, that is a vital concept. We have to remember these people did not have written language.
Right, no books.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So how do you pass down complex laws, myths, and social structures across generations? The stones were their library.
The stones were the library. I love that.
They were actively building their reality. The act of carving, gathering around, and eventually burying these symbols was the mechanism through which they organized their entire society.
Okay, so if the vulture is carrying the soul up to the heavens and they are using these symbols to construct their cosmos, we naturally have to look up.
Here we go.
Did they align these massive stone libraries with the stars? Because this is a wildly hot topic right now. The whole archaeoastronomy controversy.
It really is. It is arguably the most debated aspect of Göbeklitepe in the public sphere today.
Right. There is a very loud theory promoted heavily by popular writers like Graham Hancock and various independent researchers. They argue that the specific animal carvings and the alignments of these T-shaped pillars are actually a literal map of the night sky.
Yes, the star map theory.
They argue that, say, a carved scorpion corresponds exactly to the constellation Scorpius, making Gobeklitepe a giant astronomical observatory. So I have to ask you, are we onto something profound here, or is this just us projecting our modern obsession with the zodiac onto ancient rocks?
Well, it is overwhelmingly the latter, according to the strict academic consensus.
Really? Just projection?
Yeah, it's a highly subjective exercise. The core problem here is the mechanism of celestial movement, specifically the precession of the equinoxes.
Because the Earth wobbles, right, like a spinning top, losing its momentum.
Exactly. As the Earth wobbles on its axis over thousands of years, our perspective of the stars shifts. So the night sky 12,000 years ago looked completely different than it does tonight.
Okay, makes sense.
Now, archaeoastronomers use software to rewind the sky to around 9000 BC, which is mathematically sound. But the flaw is in the cultural assumption.
What do you mean?
They are taking a fragmented carving of an animal, looking at the rewound sky, and trying to force a one-to-one correlation based on our modern Greek and Babylonian constellations.
Oh, I see. Just because we connect the dots in the sky to look like a scorpion, there is absolutely no guarantee a hunter-gatherer in Neolithic Turkey played connect the dots the exact same way.
Exactly. Klaus Schmidt was extremely cautious about this. He maintained that, and this is a great quote, "The meaning of these structures is symbolic. But explaining these symbols with modern categories is risky."
Well, wait, let me play devil's advocate for a second here.
Sure.
What about the Nazca lines in Peru? You have massive, highly stylized animal figures carved into the desert floor, spiders, birds, monkeys.
Right.
And here in Turkey, we have massive stylized animals carved in stone. Some theorists point to this and say, look, a shared global blueprint, a shared cosmological system. How do you explain that parallel without some kind of connection?
It's a really alluring narrative, I'll give you that.
Yep.
But we have to tear it down with logistics and chronology.
Okay, hit me.
First, the timeline. Göbeklitepe is roughly 9000 BC. The Nazca lines began around 500 BC. We are talking about a gap of over 8,000 years.
Wow, okay, that's a massive gap.
Huge. Second, there is zero material evidence of any transoceanic cultural exchange during the early Neolithic. The academic explanation for this isn't a lost global civilization. It's the parallel evolution of the human mind.
Meaning humans just inherently like using big animals to explain big ideas?
Essentially, yes. Regardless of geography or era, the human brain have a shared cognitive capacity to use monumental animal symbolism to express cosmology.
That makes a lot of sense.
Right. When faced with the vastness of death and the universe, human beings independently develop similar symbolic mechanisms to cope with it. The similarity is biological and psychological, not a literal blueprint handed down.
Okay, so we've stripped away the star maps and the ancient global blueprints. Let's bring this back down to the dirt in Turkey, because one of the most stunning revelations about this site is that Göbeklitepe wasn't just a freak, isolated occurrence.
No, not at all.
For years, it was treated like this inexplicable monolith sitting alone in the desert, but that completely changed recently.
It completely changed the moment we started looking at the surrounding geography with open eyes. This is actually the most exciting recent development in Neolithic archaeology.
The Taş Tepeler, the stone hills. It turns out Göbeklitepe is just one node in a sprawling, massive cultural network.
Yeah, a massive network.
We are talking about sites like Karahantepe, Sabers, Sefer Tepe. They all show similar T-shaped pillars, similar animal reliefs, and the exact same monumental ambition.
Which scales the mystery up exponentially, right?
Yeah.
This proves Göbeklitepe wasn't a single group of people who had a strange idea one weekend.
Right.
This was an entire regional culture dedicated to this immense level of symbolic production.
And this is where the logistics utterly destroy the old textbook timeline we talked about at the very start. So what does this all mean? How do you feed them?
That is the ultimate question.
We are talking about a network of monumental sites requiring thousands of workers, carvers, and engineers. And they don't have farms. They are hunter-gatherers. The caloric demand of moving a 20-ton stone with ropes and wooden rollers is astronomical. Are you telling me thousands of people worked on this for generations without a stable food logistics system in place?
That is the exact paradox that Jacques Auvin addressed with his theory of the symbolic revolution. And honestly, it is the most profound takeaway from all of the sources today.
Okay, lay it on me.
To sustain that kind of workforce, foraging wild berries and hunting the occasional gazelle simply isn't enough. You need a reliable, high-yield caloric source. You need grain.
Wait, so the need to feed the builders actually forced them to invent agriculture?
Yes, they noticed wild einkorn wheat growing in the region. To keep the massive ritual sites operating, they had to start manipulating that wild wheat, cultivating it, and ultimately domesticating it.
That is wild.
Right. The old model dictated that humans invented farming, got comfortable, had free time, and invented gods. The symbolic revolution flips the causality entirely. Humans sought meaning first.
They needed the rituals first.
Exactly. They developed a complex cosmology that demanded monumental ritual spaces. And the sheer logistical nightmare of feeding the artists and engineers is what drove them to figure out agriculture.
That is unbelievable. Meaning, didn't just come before production, meaning actually demanded production. Like, we have to build this temple to understand our souls, so someone needs to figure out how to grow more wheat.
Yes, it completely rewires what it means to be human.
It really does. Wow. Well, as we wrap up this step dive, I want to crystallize the three massive myths that Göbeklitepe and the Stone Hills Network have effectively destroyed forever.
The big three.
Yes. Myth number one, religion comes after agriculture. Busted. They were building monumental spiritual sites long before they were domesticating crops. In fact, religion likely caused agriculture.
Absolutely.
Myth number two, complex organized societies require a top-down state or a king to function. Busted again. These were egalitarian hunter-gatherers operating without a bureaucratic state, yet they organized multi-generational, highly engineered labor projects.
It's incredible cooperation.
And myth number three, symbolism and art are dependent on economic stability. Busted. The symbols were the absolute priority. The economy was an afterthought created just to support the symbols.
It is a profound paradigm shift. When you synthesize the fieldwork, the stratigraphy, and the sheer scale of the labor, you arrive at a powerful conclusion about human nature.
Yeah.
From the very beginning, we were fundamentally cosmological beings. Göbeklitepe isn't a literal star map, and it isn't a house to live in. It is most likely the very first monumental stage where humanity stood up, looked at the overwhelming mystery of life and death, and actively tried to carve its place in the universe.
It's the first time we left a permanent 20-ton mark that said, we are here and this is what we believe.
Exactly.
Which leaves me with a final thought for you to ponder as we close out today. If you look at these ancient hunter-gatherers, they dedicated their entire lives, their calories, their muscle, their ingenuity, to dragging massive stones to carve their identities, only to deliberately bury them in the dirt. All of it was driven by an unquenchable search for cosmic meaning, rather than mere survival. Now look around at our world today. Look at the monuments we spend our lives building, the glass skyscrapers, the digital empires, the endless grinding pursuit of economic growth.
Right.
Are we still driven by that same prehistoric hunger for meaning, trying to carve our true identity into the skyline? Or somewhere along that long staircase of history, did we just become utterly obsessed with the production side of the equation and completely forget what we were building it all for in the first place? It really makes you wonder. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.